Tonight we're stepping into one of the most profound and memorable moments in history, Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples. This wasn't just a meal, it was a moment filled with meaning, love, and the beginning of something new. It was the time of the Jewish festival called Passover, a celebration of God rescuing the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. Jesus and his 12 closest followers, called disciples, gathered in a room to share this special meal. Jesus said, "I have been so eager to eat this Passover meal with you before I suffer. Because I tell you, this is the last time I will eat it until the kingdom of God comes." His words surprised the disciples. What did he mean by suffer? Why was this the last meal? They didn't fully understand yet, but they were about to find out. Then something shocking happened. Jesus got up, took a towel, and began washing the disciples' feet. This was something only a servant would do. Peter pulled his feet back, looking embarrassed. Peter shook his head and said, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet? No way, you are too important for this." Then Jesus gently said to him, "If I don't wash you, you can't really be part of what I'm doing." Peter looked determined, nodded and said, "Then wash all of me, Lord. My hands, my head, everything." Jesus smiled and explained that they only needed their feet washed, a symbol of being cleansed from sin. This wasn't just about clean feet. It was about serving others with humility. He was teaching them by example. Back to the table. Jesus takes a loaf of bread, breaks it, and holds it up. The disciples watch in silence. Jesus introduced something new. He took the bread and said something the disciples would never forget. Then Jesus said, "This is my body, given for you. Whenever you eat this, remember me." Jesus then passed the bread to each disciple. Then he lifted a cup of wine and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, poured out for you and for many. It will bring forgiveness of sins." Jesus was telling them that his body would be broken and his blood would be spilled for them, for all of us. This wasn't just any meal. It was a promise of God's love and grace, sealed by Jesus' own sacrifice. But not everything about this night was joyful. Jesus had something heavy to share. With sadness, Jesus said, "One of you here will betray me." The disciples froze, shocked. They start whispering and looking at each other. Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, had already made plans to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Jesus knew. He turned to Judas and said, Jesus calmly said to him, "What you are about to do it quickly." Judas stands and leaves the room, avoiding the disciples' eyes. The others didn't fully understand what was happening, but Jesus knew this was all part of God's greater plan. Jesus and the disciples stood together, their hands joined. Then Jesus spoke one final time. But before they left, Jesus offered words of comfort and hope. Jesus said, "Do not be afraid. Love each other just as I have loved you. And remember, I am preparing a place for in my Father's house." After the meal, they went to a garden called Gethsemane. There, Jesus would pray, and the events leading to his crucifixion would begin. But even in the shadow of what was to come, the Last Supper remained a moment of love, hope, and the promise of something greater. The Last Supper wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new covenant between God and humanity, a covenant of love, forgiveness, and grace. And every time we break bread and share the cup, we remember what Jesus did for us. The Last Supper is an event that has captivated art and imagination for centuries. It's a pivotal moment in Christian history, one that has been immortalized in countless paintings, sculptures, and even film. But despite its widespread recognition, the Last Supper remains shrouded in mystery. Who was present at the table? What was said? And what does it all mean? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Last Supper is the way it raises more questions than answers. Was Judas Iscariot the only one who knew what was about to go down, or were there others in on the secret? Did Jesus know he was about to be betrayed? And if so, why did he still offer his body and blood to his disciples? The Last Supper also speaks to the nature of sacrifice and the human condition. Jesus, the Son of God, is willing to give up his life for the sake of humanity. But what does that mean, really? Is it a demonstration of love and redemption, or a dramatic display of power and control? And what about the disciples, who are caught up in this drama, unsure of what's happening or what their role is in it all? The more we look at the Last Supper, the more we realize how much is left unsaid, how much is hidden beneath the surface. It's a masterpiece of subtlety, a work of art that invites us to ponder and reflect on the human experience. The Gospels also provide different accounts of the Last Supper, each with its own unique twists and emphases. Matthew, Mark, and Luke all describe the event in some detail, but John's Gospel adds a new layer of complexity, highlighting the spiritual significance of the moment. As we explore the mysteries of the Last Supper, we're reminded of the profound impact this event has had on art and religion. From Renaissance masterpieces to contemporary devotion, the Last Supper continues to inspire and captivate us, inviting us to ponder the deepest questions of human existence.